Good evening, ladies and gentle drunks. My name is Kevin Olson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'd like to welcome you all to the fourth dimension. Big book study, that is. Glad you guys are all here. I know I'm glad I'm here. This is the joy of my life to be here with you guys. I mean that sincerely. I never feel more alive than when I am sharing God's message of recovery in the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, in a program of Alcoholics Anonymous that I discovered in a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. So thank you guys for coming. Glad to see some new faces, and always beautiful to see some familiar faces as well. Let's kick off, as we always do, with the set aside prayer. It goes a little something like this. Sing along if you know the words. God, please help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, about me, about my fellow man, and about the 12 steps. And please allow me to gain a fresh new vision, perspective, and understanding of what you, what me, what my fellow man, and the 12 steps are all about. Amen. Okay, and as this is the fourth dimension big book study, I always like to read the two parts of our book that refer to the fourth dimension. First of all, on page 8, Bill Wilson writes that I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And then on page 25, Bill Wilson writes that we have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Boom! We're going to be catapulted. We're going to be rocketed. Mary, I love it. Good job. And for those, for the sake of tradition and custom with the fourth dimension big book study, would everyone who is willing to please put one hand up like this? Everybody put another hand up like this, and everybody go, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It always, I will never get tired of that. I will never get tired of it. The joy that it brings to my heart to watch a Zoom screen full of recovered alcoholics raising the roof with me. What a joy! Incredible. Okay, so we finished step 4 last week. There is one other thing about step 4 that I want to touch on tonight. I want to share with you that I have found helpful and others have found helpful and useful. And I do use it with my sponsees sometimes. And then we will get into step 5, and we'll do the step 5. We'll read through step 5, and Brad will help us with that, and we'll talk a little bit about it. And then I will share with you how I listen to a step 5, how I like to say how I receive a step 5. Because it's not just about listening, it's receiving it and taking it in, and then sharing and giving feedback. And we'll talk more about that tonight. Before anything else, I would like to ask Mr. Benjamin Collins, how did your share go last Tuesday?
It went really well, Kevin. Thank you for asking.
Beautiful, man. I'm very proud of you, and it means a lot to me that you actually came into the study to let us know that you weren't going to be here. I think is phenomenal, and I'm really glad that you are out there carrying God's message and carrying the message of AA. Man, it's we are the lucky ones, man. We are the lucky ones for sure. And I'm grateful to be here with you, and congrats on doing that, Ben. That's excellent. Okay. Oh, Brad was here and now he's gone. And now he's back.
No, I'm here.
There he is. Excellent. Okay, so has anyone here? You may have heard me talk about, but have anyone here? Just show of hands. Have you heard of a guy named Clancy Imislund? Clancy I. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Clancy I. Okay, Clancy I. So Clancy, well, what do I want to say about Clancy? My first introduction to Clancy was as an AA speaker. Okay, my first introduction to Clancy was as a I'll just explain. Clancy is a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, at base, he is was a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, and we can use his last name because he's no longer with us. He passed during COVID. His last name was Immisland. Clancy Immisland was his name. Clancy was just a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and my first introduction to him was as a speaker. And when I was, 19-year-old scared spitless kid in a treatment center, they had these racks of cassette tapes, as it was at that time. That's how we listened to speakers, was like cassette tapes, right? And that was it. And there wasn't any like YouTube speakers or on Spotify. I mean, now you access to them all over the place. But I remember just this guy. It was like handwritten on there, Clancy I, and that was my first introduction to Clancy. And hearing his message, he was hilarious. He was charismatic. He was brilliant. I could tell he was hugely witty, and but also a deeply profound understanding of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a deeply profound understanding, I believe, of the psychology of the alcoholic, and knew what levers to pull to get an alcoholic to change their behavior. And so I guess one of the first things about Clancy is that he was one of the most prolific speakers in all of Alcoholics Anonymous. Around the world, he probably spoke to more alcoholics one-to-one, not one-to-one, but from a podium, than anyone else in the world. Okay, so one of the most popular AA speakers of all time. I think irrefutable, without question. Clancy spoke at more international conferences than Bill Wilson did by the time that he passed. So that's, he also had more of them to speak at. But anyway, the other thing about Clancy is that he is known to be one of the most successful sponsors in the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. And whether or not that's true, there are stories that go around about him, like that in the middle of the night he would hear, if you were in his neighborhood, he would just hear a car come to his screech. You would hear a car door open, you would hear a car door close, and the car would take off. And that was the sound of some wife driving their drunk husband to Clancy's house to just kick him out on the curb, so Clancy could get him sober. That's probably has grown in the telling over the years. Clancy, this is one of my favorite Clancy stories, and this is all going somewhere, guys. I promise. I don't know why I'm on this rant, but please indulge me, because this man, because I love him a lot, and we're gonna go through his 4th step process, okay? And that's where this is all leading to. Clancy, I've heard a talk that he gave with Chuck Chamberlain. Chuck C was his sponsor. It was it was Clancy's 20th AA birthday, 20th AA sobriety day. And that was October 31st of 1978, because Clancy got sober October 31st, 1958. That's when Clancy got sober. And he was 20 years sober. And Chuck C says at the beginning of the recording that Clancy was there with 120 of his sponsees. 120 of his sponsees had come and were there and were sober, multiple years of sobriety. And this is the kind of guy that Clancy was. Clancy wrote an individual birthday card to each one of his sponsees. On his birthday, he wrote 120 birthday cards to his sponsees. And in each one of them, he wrote the same thing. And this is absolutely brilliant with respect to the 12th step. Thank you for letting me think about you so I didn't have to think about myself. Okay? That is the magic of the 12th step. So Clancy then also started a meeting in Los Angeles called the Pacific Group. So really, like, Clancy is like the biggest speaker on the planet. He's the most successful sponsor on the planet. And he started a meeting called the Pacific Group in Los Angeles, California. That is, I think, hard to argue. It's the largest Alcoholics Anonymous meeting on the planet. I've been there. Any Wednesday night you go, there's 700 to 1,000 people every Wednesday night. They have people who organize parking. They have people, there's a lineup of greeters and they all wear ties. Okay. I do this out of respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, not because we're big shots. I wear a tie out of respect for the big book and respect for Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what Clancy was all about. And he founded that group in 1963. And to this day, it's the world's largest Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So Clancy was a force in AA. I am very proud to say that Clancy, I think of him as my grand sponsor now. My sponsor, Alan, was sponsored by Clancy for 22 years. And my sponsor, Alan, spoke at Clancy's memorial. And I'm very, very proud of all this. Why am I telling you all of this? Because you're very kind to indulge me. And Clancy had a profound impact on my life. And I only met him one time. Here's where I'm going with all this. Thank you, guys. I hope that wasn't offside of me sharing all of that with you. I know that this is a big book study and we're going to get, I promise you, we're going to get into it. But this is Clancy's 4th step, okay? And so one of the things about this version of the step 4 inventory is these are questions that Clancy he didn't insist that his sponsees did this version of it. My sponsor, Alan, never did this version. He only ever did it out of the big book. But Clancy would use these steps, these 7 questions they're known as a kind of a truncated version of step 4. And what I've read is that he would use them for really 2 types of people. The very lowest of low bottoms, men and women who had trouble even reading, not much education. And then he would also use these steps on the opposite extreme when he was with really, really big deal lawyers and PhDs and stuff like this that would just get lost in a real 4-step. He would keep it very simple and just ask these questions. So number 1, looking back over your life, what memories are still painful, still guilt-ridden, and still dirty? Number 2, in what ways do you feel inadequate as a person? 3, who do you resent and why? Be as specific and nasty as you can. 4, what do you conceive to be the ongoing or recurring problems in your human relationships? 5, what do you consider to be your defects of character as you see them? 6, what would you say today are your goals in life, whether realistic or not? And 7, how do you think AA can in any way possibly help you in a start toward any of these goals? So that's what he would give. For a 4th step, they would do some writing on it. There's many famous stories about Clancy then going for a drive down the Pacific Coast Highway in Los Angeles, and that's where he would do step 5s, driving. And that's I'll talk about that in a minute, where I do step 5s. I do a lot of what I call driving 5s, where we just drive. I drive, they sit shotgun and talk. And I got that from Clancy. Anyway, so these 7 questions are something that you might want to try yourself, might be helpful for you. If you also have a sponsee who's like, I've done the 4 columns like 2 or 3 times now, Kevin, give me, I've had enough of the meat and potatoes. I want to try something a little bit different flavor. This is something, it's also meaningful to me because there's a real connection to Clancy through them doing this and keeping his legacy and his spirit well alive. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Now, it is a big book study, and we are going to read the big book now. So let's get into step 5. I'm going to stop sharing this for now. And let's get into my favorite chapter, page 72. What's it called? Into action. Into action. It does not say into meetings, okay? It does not say into wishing things would get better, okay? It says into action, into action. So with that said, Brad, if you would, please take us away, chapter 6, into action, having made our personal inventory.
Hey everybody, Brad Sillito, recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Brad.
Chapter 6, into action.
Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient.
All
Many of
right,
us
guys, that is one of my favorite lines in our book. Solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. Okay, what does that mean? It means that I am not really very good at looking at myself. Okay, so step 4 is a wonderful step, but it can have little valuable or permanent effect unless I go share it with someone else. Why? Because someone else is much better equipped to see the truth about me than I am about myself. That's the reality. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to quote Clancy. What Clancy would say is that when he was listening to his step 5, it was clear as day what was wrong with the guy sitting in front of him. Because between him and the guy, there is nothing but air, just air. And he could hear the truth quickly about what's going on with him if he's listening to it. Who could Clancy not see the truth about? Himself. Okay? Because between him and him, there is an entire web of delusions and rationalizations and justifications and emotional defense mechanisms that we have spent decades building so our brains didn't explode. Okay? It's not my fault you don't understand all that stuff, okay? Because we need something to hang the guilt on, okay? So we blame other things. We can't see the truth. But someone else, if properly equipped, can just cut right through it, man. Solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. Step 4 is a vitally important tool, no doubt, okay? And I take it with me all the time. But it is very important that I continue to talk to my sponsor and others on a regular basis about what's going on with me, because I cannot see the truth about myself. Okay? I can't. No one can. There's a great saying, you can't read the label while you're inside the bottle. Okay? When you're inside the bottle, you can't see what needs to be read. Okay? What needs to be on the outside. Okay? And that's very true. I'll remind everyone, like, what one of my favorite analogy for step 4 is it's like you're looking in a dryer with clothes filled, right? And the clothes are just spinning around. And prior to step 4, it's like you're in there and looking, trying to see, like, I think I saw a sock in there. Like, you have no idea, right? Until in step 4, we open it up and we take it out and we lay it all out and we see what's really there. But even then, guys, is it possible that I might think, like, that shirt is still really looks good on me and I really like that shirt, and I'm going to hold on to that. That's still in style. And then I invite someone over to see, look at my clothes, and they say, that shirt is terrible. You got to get rid of that. Okay? They can see the truth and I can't. Okay? Does that make sense, you guys? That's the solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. So important. It's one of my favorite lines in our book. Back to you, Brad.
Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking.
Okay. So now, there are 3 places in the book, and I'm going to point them all out to you. There are 3 places in the book that say you don't do this, you're going to drink. 1 is if we don't change our sex conduct. 2, we just read it. You skip on step 5. Our book says you're going to drink. The 3rd has to do with creditors in step 9. Okay? Sex and money. That's what we drink over. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out. That's how vitally important step 5 is, okay?
Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story.
All
More
right,
than
so
most,
it says, I mean, just to say, guys, it says, tell someone all their life story. And Joe and Charlie joke about this. Like, we're not there to tell someone our whole life story. What we're there to do is to read our step 4. That's what we do, okay? And tonight, I'm going to, again, the spirit of this study is always that we need to make that transition from being takers to givers, okay? So we're not here necessarily to talk about doing your first 5th step with someone else, although that's equally important. My sponsor and at the Pacific Group, they say the most important step 5 in your life is the first one that you listen to, the first one that you hear, okay? And I wish that I listened to one last night, man. I listened to one last night. It's hard to explain until you've been through it, man. Like the most profound spiritual experiences, and I don't think I've ever felt more human and alive and happy to be alive and filled with compassion and understanding and just general well-being and okayness than when I sit and have the privilege of sitting with another man and going through his stuff. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we're going to talk tonight about how I do a step 5. Okay, not just how do we share one, but what do we do? What do you do? There's no definitive guideline in our actions in our book. So I'm going to share with you some things that I have been taught, and we will we'll go through those. But we're not here to tell our whole life story. Okay, we're not. We're there to read our 4th step. That's what we're doing. We're going to read through the resentments, then we're going to read through the fears, and then we're going to read through the sex conduct. We're not there to tell our life story, even though I know that's what it says. Joe and Charlie make a real funny joke about, like, God forbid someone ever had to sit and actually listen to my whole life story. Bedraggled little bedtime 3-part mini-series of the saga of poor little Kevin. Good Lord. No. Resentment, fear, sex conduct. And we're trying to get to the root of the problem. We're trying to get to the causes and conditions, okay, that cause the flaws in my character, okay? And we wanted to zero in on what are really, that's what we're trying to ascertain, okay? And defects of character, and how do we pull those out of a step 5, okay? And what does that mean? What does it even mean, a defect of character? Okay, we're going to get into 6 and 7 next week, but but we will go through 5 in depth, and I will tell you exactly how we pull the defects of character out during a step 5. Okay, back to you, Brad. Thank you.
more than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance of recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with somebody ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot,
Okay, so we're gonna read some things now that applied during the context of when the Big Book was written. Okay, April 10th, 1939 was the day the Big Book was published, and it went out into the world. And from that point on, Alcoholics Anonymous started to grow. That said, I want you to imagine it's, 1939, 1940, you are one person alone with this book. And with this book alone, you are going through these steps. And now it's saying to you, you need to go find someone to do a step 5 with. There are no other Alcoholics Anonymous members that you are acquainted with. You have never met another member of AA because in your town, you're the only AA member you've ever known, because you don't know that AA is becoming a fellowship, because at one time we were just a book. We were a book that grew into a fellowship. Okay. And now, I don't know about y'all, but I see most times we're just a fellowship that once in a while we still have a book when we remember to talk about it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the indication in this book is that we may want to go to someone ordained, and now it's going to give us some other suggestions on other types of people that we might want to go do our step 5 with. None of this applies anymore. Okay. There are countless people. You are surrounded by people who are amply qualified to listen to your 5th step. I see 4, 5, 6 of them on this call right now. Okay. If you need someone to listen to your step 5, we will get you hooked up. Okay. There are also lots of great places where I live in Calgary. I'm sure where you live. What I will say about going to someone ordained is like a minister or priest or rabbi or imam, I think they call them in Muslim or in Islam rather, whatever. Try to find one that has done it a few times, that is like kind of in the recovery community and has listened to a lot of 5th steps. Okay. My experience in going to a guy who just has never done it before is you're going to get a lot of silence on the other end. And it's not anywhere near as useful as getting feedback from someone. And my suggestion, I don't know why in most places in the world, it is well understood. There's one person you do your step 5 with, your sponsor, without question. Somewhere, it's a funny thing, like in Western Canada, we started to get this idea somehow that like, oh, no, because your sponsor could drink again and take all your secrets, and you're not going to be honest with your sponsor about everything, so you should go do it with someone else. And I think we're robbing members of AA of the experience, the absolute privilege and honor of receiving a step 5. Okay, that's the downside of that. And really, I think for the most part, nothing I have to say is that important, that even if my sponsor got drunk and went and told a bunch of people, I don't think anyone, nothing is that important. So my suggestion, strong suggestion, is you do it with your sponsor, because it will build more trust. It will build a stronger relationship. And then also when you go to do steps 8 and 9, he already knows, she already knows most of the story. They already know the things and the people that you're going to have to go make these amends to. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so my strong suggestion is you do it with your sponsor, okay? But now we're going to see this next part, and it's gonna talk about other people that we may do it with, and you'll see what I mean here, Brad, in this next paragraph.
If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance. We search our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own.
With your doctor or psychologist.
It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents, which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no
Please,
right to.
for the love of goodness, do not do your step 5 with your wife or your family or your parents. Okay? As I said, if you need someone to do your step 5 with, man, we got loads of people. Raise your hand if you've ever listened to and received a step 5. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, you need someone to do it with, like, rock and roll, man. We got you. We got you. And Danelle could be raising her hand now too. I know Danelle receives step 5s as well. Okay, back
We,
to
ha-
you.
we have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner.
That
Yeah.
is really that. Oh, I was saying that, Brad. Sorry, not Brad.
Oh.
Brad. That is really the only actual, like, kind of direction that it gives you in this book on how to actively receive a step 5. Okay, it says it's going to be a long talk. That's really it. Okay, and so I've had the experience of doing a lot of them, and I needed to find. Anyway, Brad, you go on. Let's finish reading through this, and I'll explain step 5 and how to listen to it a little bit better.
We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence.
Okay, what we're
We
going to read here
pocket.
next, guys, that our book, we all know the step 9 promises, but our book is full of promises. Okay, and these are some of my favorites. These are what we call the step 5 promises.
We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Returning home.
When Ebby Thatcher shows up at Bill Wilson's house in Bill's story on page 9, it says the door opened and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened? Okay, there is one step that has more than any other, in my opinion, has a physically transformative effect on men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's step 5. You can physically see a change if you're paying attention and you care about them. Okay, you can see there's something going on. Okay, and that's what it says. We can look at the world with perfect peace and ease, so on and so forth. I love that it says now, step 5, we begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. Okay, in step 2, it's like, I believe that there is something. Step 3, I'm making a decision that I want to have this thing. Well, hey, now it's starting to come. Why? Because I just put in a lot of work, man. Okay, step 4 and 5 are not as difficult as we make them out to be. Okay, it's always the mountain is harder to climb when I'm on this side of it. Okay, you get to the other side and I think that, man, that was not as difficult as I thought. What was I making such a big deal out of? Okay, you get to the other side, but we have done some work for sure. And most importantly, man, what we've done is removed the things within me that are blocking me, to allow the sunlight of the Spirit to start to shine in. So of course, I'm done step 5. Yeah, now I begin to feel the nearness of my Creator. It's not just, an idea anymore, or like an intellectual good step to take because I don't want to drink anymore. Now, man, it starts to happen. Somebody told me one time, steps 4 and 5 is where they really felt like they put their flag in the ground in Alcoholics Anonymous, where they really started to feel like, I am a real member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, that's not true. Of course, anyone is a member the moment that they say they are. Anyone with a desire to stop drinking is a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, period. But it doesn't mean I feel like a member. Doesn't mean like I still don't feel like an outsider in AA, like I'm not good enough, like I don't belong, like I felt my whole life. Okay. 4 and 5, boom. Now I start to feel a part of. Okay. Beautiful. Why? Because I've removed those resentments. I've removed those fears. I've removed the guilt and the shame that was attached to all my sex conduct. And now I feel a part of the world. Okay. Where I used to have certain spiritual beliefs, now we're having a spiritual experience. And guess what? Now, because I'm getting connected to the thing that gets alcoholics sober, I'm connected to God. Now, the feeling the drink problem has disappeared is going to come strongly. Because, as I often say, Alcoholics Anonymous does not get me sober. AA, the book does not get me sober. The 12 steps do not get me sober. My sponsor does not get me sober. My home group does not get me sober. All of those things do one thing, and that is get me connected to the power. And that power is what gets me sober. You guys with me on that? Okay. Now we're getting through step 5. Now we're starting to have this experience for real. Okay. So, Brad is now going to talk about, so you know what, we're going to stop there, and we're going to talk about how to receive a step 5. So first of all, if you're here in Calgary or anywhere near Calgary, I will say that we are very, very blessed that we have a place called Mount St. Francis. Anyone here ever been to Mount St. Francis in Cochrane outside of Calgary? Beautiful. Farron, am I right? Yeah, that's an awesome place, right? It is a Franciscan retreat. Brad, have you never been to Mount St. Francis?
I have not. Remember, I didn't get sober in Calgary, and I've only and so I've never been there. I've been by it. I actually used to live close to it when I was in junior high school. I went to grade 9 in Cochrane, and we lived out in the country, and I lived close by to it, but I've never been there.
Man, it's awesome. It's great. Okay, so anyway, Mount St. Francis is a Franciscan monk retreat. Like the guys there, they're called brothers, and they wear like the brown, like they're monks, man. But as God would have it, part of their ministry is receiving step 5s from the recovery community in Calgary. And there's 2 Franciscan retreats in all of Canada. One's in Quebec and the other's like a half hour from my house. Beautiful. And they're based on like and you guys know step 11, St. Francis of Assisi, all that stuff. That's their ministry is based on St. Francis, the teachings of St. Francis. Anyway, so we're very lucky. So if you're in Calgary or anyone around Calgary, that's I did one of my first ones with Father Brian out at Mount St. Francis, and then I did one with my my sponsor as well. I did. I did 2 on. There was a lot to unpack. Basically, is what it was. So, so if you have any fear about doing your own step 5 or whatever, you don't know who to do it with, come and get with one of us, and we'll get you hooked up. I mean, a lot of you probably know Paige. Paige receives step 5s. I can receive step 5s. Of men, I only receive men step 5s. But there are other women on the call right now who raised their hand that would be more than happy to help out anyone that needs help. Okay, even virtually. That's something I learned during COVID. Is you can receive a step 5 over Zoom, and it works just great. So I've also now done step 5s like on a telephone with guys that have listened to my step 5, because I do one of these just about every year. And we'll talk about that more when we get to step 10, the annual or semi-annual house cleaning. for now, let's talk about how do we listen to step 5. So I will say that I've listened to at this point hundreds of step 5s, and I say that with some assurance because I used to, when I would do a step 5, I had a bag of tea light candles, you know, those little tea lights, and we would say a prayer. It means I was there, they were there, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being. Okay, and the candle represented God. We'd light the tea light. They would do their step 5, and I would, at the end, it would be burned out, and I'd kind of crush it up and give it to them as part of their step 5. That bag had 100 in, and that's been gone for a long time. So I've done hundreds of these, and I'm not boasting. If I'm trying to build some credibility, though, a little bit, when I tell you and when I explain to you that, like, I know a little bit about listening to step 5s. And I've got some very, very good practical experience that I can share with you, and I will share with you what I have been taught. So so where is a question, right? Where are you going to do a step 5? And I will say there is a difference for me between doing someone's very first step 5 and the one I did last night with one of my sponsees was probably like the 4th one that he's done. And I know it's just a little tune-up, okay? So we did that one in a Vietnamese restaurant, okay? Eating pho, and he loved it. It was great. And then we walked around. It was a beautiful summer night, incredible. Step 5, okay? And he talked, and I listened and shared stuff with him, and it beautiful, okay? You also get to a point where you can start trading inventory, okay? He tells me some of his stuff. I tell him some of my stuff. We're going to talk a bit about more of that too. For someone's first step 5, it's a sacred thing. It's a sacred moment. It is a deep honor, and it is a deep responsibility. A deep responsibility. Okay, and to be there and to be present and to be mindful and engaged and to keep it someplace. Obviously, for a first one, my point is someplace very private where they are truly able to share anything that they have. Okay. Because I heard that Clancy did these drives down Pacific Coast Highway, I have started doing what I call driving 5s, which is, you know, I'm blessed to have a car today. Okay. And I drive and they sit shotgun and they talk. Okay. And it usually works pretty good. And we get some windshield time. We're not like eyeball to eyeball at each other, which can get really, this can be a lot of energy there, if you know what I mean. But sitting beside each other, windshield time, it's helpful. And if it's good enough for Clancy, it's good enough for me. Okay. That's kind of my gold standard. So I do a lot of those. And I always start with a prayer, of course. Okay. And my prayer will be something like, God, we ask that you please be here. So first, God, thank you for this incredible program of recovery. We ask that you be here with us now in this process. And I ask that you help me to listen with love and understanding and compassion. I ask that you bless this man to speak with your power and your strength and your courage, God, particularly when he needs to speak about some of the more troubling aspects of his inventory. And most importantly, God, we just ask that you be here with us in this time and bless this time together. Amen. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Then I will say to him, you and I are going to talk about some stuff today. We're going to talk about your resentment and your fear and your sex conduct. Okay. I'm sure there's some stuff that you're terrified of to tell me. Okay. That's normal. That's fine. I can tell you that I've probably done worse. Okay. I've certainly heard worse in all the step 5s that I've done. A little joke that I love to make is, you know, that deep, dark secret that you're telling yourself, I'm never going to tell anyone this thing. I'm going to take this to the grave. I'm never sharing this with anyone. There's probably someone on this Zoom call right now who's done the same thing, right? And the joke is, if there's a name for it, that means that someone else has done it before. And if there's a law against it, that means that so many of us were doing it that they had to legally get the police to stop us from doing it. So you're not unique, you're not special. You're not going to shock us with anything in your step 5. Okay? You're not going to shock us. If you want to shock us, get a commitment at your home group. Okay? That would shock us. Okay? So, with that said, then we kick off the step 5 and I ask, okay, are you ready? Yeah, we're ready. And then the next question I ask, and before I tell you what it is, I will tell you how I used to do step 5s. I used to just listen to the entire thing, every square inch of their step 4. And I used to be almost punitive with myself about it. That it all had to be done in one setting. No, you got to do the whole thing. And so I was listening to like 6-hour step 5s all in one setting. Okay. Every piece of the 4-step, all of it. And then it was, the last one I did was 11 hours. 11 hours. And I said, no more. No more. I just can't. I don't have the mental energy to do that anymore. So 2 takeaways from that. Number 1, I do them in 3-hour segments now. And I let spontees know we're going to book 3 hours. Okay. I typically do them on the weekends. I do a step 5 almost once a week. I think it's, no, I'm not, that's not entirely true. There was a time, and there are times where I'm doing one once a week, once a month for sure. I listen to a step 5 without question. And sometimes it's multiple weeks back to back. Like Sunday afternoon, it's a way of life.
Mhm.
I do them at 3 hours at a time. If we need more time, we'll book another one. However, I also started asking AA old timers that I love and respect, AA speakers from all over the world, like circuit speakers and stuff, like, how do you guys do it? And Scott Lee from Nashville, Tennessee gave me the method that I'm going to share right now. And Myers Raymer in Dallas, Texas, when I asked him, he gave me the exact same method. So there's a lot of people using this. It's what I use, and I think it cuts right to the heart of the matter. So the next question that I ask after we say the prayer, after I ask them, are you ready? You feel comfortable? Okay. Then I say, I want you to tell me the worst thing that you've ever done. Okay? And we start there. Tell me the worst thing you've ever done. And they try to think of the worst thing that they've ever done. And they tell me the worst thing that they've ever done. And then I share with them something that I've done that is similar. And maybe, it's not to the same degree. I remember I had a guy, I have listened to people tell me that they have broken all 10 of the commandments, all 10 of them, including thou shalt not kill. Okay. And I remember listening to the guy who told me that this is what he had done. And we talked about, and this is the other thing. What are the defects of character now? Okay. So tell me the worst thing you've ever done. Then I want to match it with something that I've done, some identification, at least in the motives or understanding, something else that I've done in my life. Okay. And then I want to tie it to a defect of character. The worst thing in my life that I've ever done. What was the flaw in my makeup that caused the trouble? Okay. And this guy said, well, I was part of a gang and they were all expecting me to do it, to kill this guy. And I was really worried about like how I would look in front of my gang if I didn't do it. So I went and did it. Okay. Now, maybe I've never let the dog quite off the leash the way that guy did, but I know everyone on this call right now understands that motivation. Being worried about what other people are thinking and making dumb, stupid decisions selfish, self-centered decisions as a result of caring what other people thought. Okay. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So that's what we do. Okay. What are the defects that created this situation in the worst thing that you've ever done? Okay. And then he tells me the thing. I share with him that, there's some understanding, some compassion. You're not alone. I understand. I get it. Talk about the defects behind that. Now, tell me the next worst thing that you've ever done. Okay. He thinks of some other worst thing that he's ever done. And I say, hey, I've done a little bit of thing like that too. I understand. You're not alone. What defects are behind that? Yeah, it was pretty dishonest of you to do that, right? Yeah. Pretty selfish too. Pretty inconsiderate. Okay. A lot of self-pity involved in that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was worried, on and on and on. Okay. Now, tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. Okay. And that goes on and on until they run out of worst things they've ever done. And typically, the most hardened criminals in the world, public enemy number one, it'll take about 45 minutes for them to tell me all of the worst things that they've ever done. Okay. And, oh, there we go. Can you guys see the slide? So tell me the worst thing you've ever done. Okay. And I'll be honest, guys, when I listen to some people's step fives, I'm almost looking like, man, please let me hear something a little bit juicy this afternoon. Like a little bit. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, tell me the worst thing you've ever done. And they're like, and they tell me, and I'm, I like, that's the worst thing he's ever done. Jeez, but, so that's a really good point. I need to address that. When we do a step 5, it's really important to not show any judgment or emotion of any kind. Okay. And if you start listening to step 5s on a regular basis, you're going to hear some stuff. Okay. Some of them are totally just vanilla, boring step 5s. Tell me the worst thing you've ever done. It takes about 15 minutes and they get through it. And then other times you're going to hear some stuff. Okay. So then after tell me the worst things you've ever done, then I was instructed, I've been told by both Scott Lee and Myers-Raymer to go through these questions. 1, have you ever physically assaulted someone? 2, have you ever taken someone's life? 3, have you ever committed a crime that went unknown? 4, do you have any warrants out for your arrest? 5, have you ever committed a criminal sexual act? 6, have you ever had sex with a family member? And 7, I thought this was different at the time, but have you ever had sexual contact with an animal? What I will tell you is that I have had affirmative answers in step 5s to everything on this list. Okay. And imagine the freedom that someone who had been harboring some of those questions feels as a result of being able to get honest about it. And that's why we need to ask those questions afterwards. So that's what I do. That is step 5 for me. And then we go to, and I presume Rob is putting this in the chat, so you guys will have it if you want to use it. Then we go to their notebook. Okay. Now you guys know how I talk about in step 4, we got nickel and dime resentments, but then once in a while we got those $50 bills. Okay. Those $50 bill resentments. What I want to do is I want to hear the $50 bills from their resentments. And I want to hear the $50 bills of their fears. And I'll tell you what, most of the time, I've already heard the $50 bill sex conduct. Why? Because when I ask the question, tell me the worst thing you've ever done, for most of us, it's in that realm. Okay. And that happens a lot. Okay. And that's why, like I indicated last week, why we need to talk about sex conduct. That's why so many of these questions that I just read are about sex conduct. Okay. because we all get screwed up there. Our book says we all have sex problems. Page 69, we all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? This is what we can do about them. We can put them in the light. Okay, we can share them with someone else. Okay, and we can start to feel some freedom. Okay, and it was super important to me. And I will tell you, like, our book is absolutely right. Some people would have us would give us no flavor for our fare, and some people would have us on a straight pepper diet. That's right, Judy, straight pepper diet. And you know, I like sriracha myself, but that is but they're on different extremes. Okay, but no matter what, we need to talk about it all and get it all out. Then, so why do I only listen to those resentments? Well, number one is because I want to make sure that they understand the tool. Step 4 is a tool. It's not a homework assignment. It's a tool. And I need to know that they understand the magic between column 3 and column 4. I need to know that they understand that prayer deeply. What page? What page? If I called on you right now, I'm not going to do it, but if I called on you right now and said, what page? Step 4 resentment prayers. What pages, guys? What pages? I would like to think, I know, Richard, I know you know, buddy. I would like to think that we would all resoundingly say page 67 and 552, boom. Okay? I would love to say, tell me what the step 4 fear prayer is. Boom. You just know it. It's because it's a tool. We need to flex that muscle, man. That's the only way, is to get reps in doing it. One of the ways we get reps into doing it is by, I'm seeing double the Nels here. Double the Nels. And I couldn't be happier to see 2 of you. One of the ways we get reps in is by taking other people through the work. Okay, then I need to understand. I want to make sure they understand, where am I to blame? Boom. In the past. Boom. In the mirror. Boom. Today. Fear. How would trusting God and fully relying on God and doing as He would have us remove the fear. Boom. Surface level. Boom. Deeper level. I need to know that they understand that tool, and that's why we go through those pieces, and then we're done. Okay, that is it, and that is how I listen to a step 5, and I have found it to be highly effective, and typically the type of thing where we can do it in 3 hours. Okay, 7 o'clock there. Boom, done. I'm out. Thank you very much, you guys. I love you all. Thanks everyone for being here. 7 p.m. We're done for the night. And but stick around. We're gonna close with the Lord's Prayer, and stick around if you everyone wants to say hello and so on. I would love to say hi to everyone